The colony, nestled in a valley surrounded by jagged mountains, was quiet for once. The calm was deceptive, though. Everyone knew it wouldn't last. Raids from alien scavengers had become more frequent, and the colonists were always on edge. Tonight, however, something unusual had happened. A group of soldiers returned to the colony, dragging a figure behind them. It wasn't just any alien it was unlike anything anyone had seen before. Skin shimmered faintly, like polished silver under the moonlight, and its eyes glowed softly, like two tiny stars trapped in its face. Chains bound its wrists and ankles, but even restrained, the creature radiated power. It didn't struggle or cry out as the soldiers pushed it forward. Instead, it stood tall, its posture proud and unyielding. Even as whispers erupted among the crowd gathering around, Emma Carter watched from the doorway of the infirmary. She had been cleaning up after another long day when the commotion began. Now curiosity pulled her outside. Her heart raced as she took in the sight of the alien. There was something about him that made her pause. It wasn't like the others who had attacked the colony. Those creatures had been grotesque, with sharp teeth and claws, their movements jerky and violent. This one looked almost human. Back inside Emma, Daniel Hayes barked as he passed by. Daniel was the head of security at the colony, a man with broad shoulders and a no-nonsense attitude. His voice carried authority, but Emma ignored him. She couldn't look away from the alien. "He's injured," she said, stepping closer. Sure enough, blood trickled down his arm where the chains had cut into his skin. A gash marred his side, likely from a blaster wound. The alien didn't flinch, though. He simply stared ahead, his glowing eyes scanning the crowd with an unreadable expression. "This isn't your concern," Daniel snapped, grabbing her arm firmly. "We don't know what this thing is capable of." Emma pulled her arm free. Frowning, "He's bleeding. If we don't treat him, he could die. And if we do, he might kill us all," Daniel countered. His tone softened slightly as he added, "Look, I get it. You're a medic. Helping people or whatever this is what you do. But not this time. Not with him." Emma crossed her arms, her jaw set stubbornly. "If he wanted to hurt us, don't you think he'd have done it already? Look at him. He's chained up and outnumbered. What's he going to do?" Daniel hesitated, glancing at the alien. The creature hadn't moved, but there was an intensity to his gaze that made everyone uneasy. Finally, Daniel sighed. "You'd fine. Treat him, but you're not doing it alone. I'll post guards outside the infirmary, and you report directly to me. If anything happens, understand?" Emma nodded, relief washing over her. "Thank you." The infirmary was small but functional, filled with basic medical equipment and supplies. Emma led the way as two soldiers dragged the alien inside and secured him to a chair. The chains rattled with every movement, but the alien remained silent. Once the soldiers left, closing the door behind them, Emma approached cautiously. "Hi," she said softly, trying to sound reassuring. The alien didn't respond. His glowing eyes followed her as she moved around the room, gathering bandages. An antiseptic. "I'm Emma. I'm here to help you." Still no response. Emma swallowed nervously. She wasn't sure what she had expected, maybe fear, anger, or defiance, but this silence unnerved her. She knelt beside him, inspecting the wound on his arm. Up close, she could see how intricate his skin was. It wasn't just smooth, seemed to shift subtly, catching the light in strange ways. Beautiful, she thought, before she could stop herself. As she worked, cleaning the cuts and applying ointment, she tried again. "Why are you fighting us? Why attack our colony?" For a moment she thought he wouldn't answer. Then in a voice low and rough, as though he wasn't used to speaking, he said, "Why? Call me beautiful. Human." Emma froze, startled. She hadn't realized she'd spoken aloud. Heat rushed to her cheeks, and she stammered, I didn't mean to say that. I was just thinking." The alien tilted his head slightly, studying her. "No one calls me beautiful." Emma blinked, unsure how to respond. She finished wrapping his arm and moved to examine the gash on his side. "Well, maybe they should," she muttered under her breath. "What is your name?" She replied, meeting his gaze. "What's yours?" "Kale," he said after a pause. His voice was deeper now, steadier. You are kind. Emma smiled faintly. Not everyone thinks so. Some people think I'm too soft-hearted for my own good. Cale's expression didn't change, but there was something in his eyes, a flicker of understanding, perhaps soft-hearted. His strength. Emma felt a lump form in her throat. She wasn't sure why his words affected her so deeply, but they did. For the first time since he'd arrived, she felt like she was seeing more than just an alien warrior. There was pain in his gaze, buried beneath layers of pride and resilience. Whatever his story was, it wasn't simple. They sat in silence for a while as Emma finished treating his wounds. When she was done, she leaned back, letting out a tired sigh. There, that should hold until you heal properly. Cale glanced, down at the bandages, then back at her. Why help me? Emma hesitated. How could she explain it? She didn't fully understand it herself. Because it's the right thing to do, she finally said. And because I think you deserve it. Cale's eyes narrowed slightly as though he didn't believe her, but he didn't argue. Instead, he turned his head toward the window, gazing out at the darkened colony beyond. Outside, voices carried faintly angry, fearful, uncertain. Emma knew what they were saying. She'd heard the whispers ever since Cale arrived. He's dangerous. He'll kill us all. We should execute him. She clenched her fists, frustration bubbling inside her. They didn't know him, didn't see what she saw, and yet she couldn't deny the risk. What if they were right? What if Cale really was a threat? But as she looked at him now, sitting silently with his hands bound and his wounds freshly tended, she couldn't bring herself to believe it. There was something about him, something fragile hidden beneath his strength, that made her want to protect him. Get some rest, she said gently, standing up. I'll check on you later. Cale didn't respond, but as she turned to leave, she thought she saw the faintest hint of gratitude in his eyes. It was enough to keep her coming back, even when doubt lingered in the corners of her mind. Take the image of Cale sitting silently in the infirmary, his glowing eyes watching her every move. His words echoed in her mind. Why call me beautiful, human? It was such a strange question, one she hadn't expected from someone like him. Beautiful wasn't a word she'd ever imagined associating with an alien warrior, but now that she thought about it, it fit. She dressed quickly and made her way to the infirmary, carrying a tray of food. The guards stationed outside eyed her suspiciously as she entered, their weapons slung over their shoulders. Inside, Cale was still seated. In the same chair, though his posture had shifted slightly. He looked up as she approached, his expression unreadable. Good morning, Emma said, setting the tray down on the small table beside him. I brought you breakfast. I don't know if you can eat our food, but, well, it's worth a try. Cale stared at the tray for a moment before glancing back at her. You trust me? Emma hesitated. Did she? She wasn't sure. But something inside her told her he wasn't a threat, not right now anyway. I'm willing to give you a chance, she replied honestly. That's all any of us can ask for, isn't it? Cale didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached out cautiously, picking up a piece of fruit from the tray. He examined it closely, turning it over in his hand before taking a small bite. His expression softened slightly as he chewed, and Emma felt a flicker of relief. You're not? What I expected, she admitted, sitting across from him. Most of the aliens we've encountered are different. More aggressive. I am not like them, Cale said simply, his voice low and measured. My people do not fight because they wish to. We fight to survive. Emma frowned. Your people? What do you mean? Cale paused, his glowing eyes meeting hers. For a moment, she thought he wouldn't answer, then slowly he began to speak. We are called the Vorin. Once, we traveled the stars in peace, seeking knowledge and connection. But war came to us. Other races saw our strength and sought to use it for themselves. They turned us into weapons, forcing us to fight for them. Those who refused? His voice trailed off, but the pain in his gaze spoke volumes. Emma listened intently, her heart aching for him. And you? What happened to you? Cale's jaw tightened. I was born too. Valuable. My appearance made me a target, my own. Kind cast me out, believing I would bring destruction upon them. So I became a warrior, fighting alone. It is better this way. Emma felt a lump rise in her throat. She couldn't imagine being rejected by her own people, treated as nothing more than a tool or a weapon. No wonder he carried himself with such pride, which all he had left. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "That must have been unbearable." Cale shrugged, as if trying to dismiss the weight of his past. "It is life I endure." There was a long silence between them, broken only by the distant hum of activity outside. Emma studied him, noticing the faint scars that marred his otherwise flawless skin. Each one told a story, she realized, a reminder of battles fought and survived. Yet, despite everything, there was a gentleness to him, buried beneath layers of armor, both literal and metaphorical. "What will happen to you now?" Cale asked suddenly, breaking the quiet. "Will your people kill me?" Emma shook her head, firmly. "Not if I can help it. I won't let them hurt you without proof that you're dangerous. You haven't given anyone a reason to fear you, not yet." Cale's lips twitched slightly, almost like the hint of a smile. "You are brave, Emma. Foolish, perhaps, but brave." Emma chuckled softly, though her laughter held a note of sadness. "Maybe. But sometimes bravery is just another form of stubbornness." They sat together for a while longer, talking sporadically about small things: her work as a medic, the colony's struggles, the stars above them. Cale seemed intrigued by her descriptions of Earth, a planet he'd never seen but could picture vividly through her words. In turn, he shared fragments of his own world, painting pictures of vast deserts and glittering cities swallowed by time. Their conversations were cautious, tentative, but they built a bridge between two vastly different lives. Later that day, Emma found herself facing resistance from others in the colony. Rumors had spread quickly about Cale's presence, and opinions were divided. Some believed he should be executed immediately, while others argued that keeping him alive might provide valuable information about his species. Christopher Blake, a soldier known for his fiery temper, led the charge against Cale. "He's a monster," Christopher shouted during a heated meeting in the command center. "He'll kill us all the first chance he gets." "That's not true," Emma interjected, stepping forward. Her voice trembled slightly, but she forced herself to stand tall. "He hasn't harmed anyone. He's injured, chained up, and completely at our mercy. Killing him without cause makes us no better than the raiders we're trying to defend ourselves against." Christopher sneered at her. "You're blinded by pity, Emma. This thing doesn't deserve your sympathy." Daniel Hayes, who had remained silent until now, stepped in. "Enough," he said sharply, his tone brooking no argument. "We need to handle this carefully. If we act rashly, we risk alienating potential allies, or worse, provoking an attack. For now, Cale stays where he is. Understood?" The room fell silent, though Emma could feel the tension simmering beneath the surface. She knew Christopher wouldn't let this go easily, but for now, Cale was safe. Back in the infirmary, Emma resumed her routine of caring for Cale. Over the next few days, their bond deepened. He began opening up more, sharing stories of his travels and the lessons he'd learned along the way. Emma introduced him to simple pleasures: music, art, poetry, and watched as his curiosity grew. There was a childlike wonder in his reactions, stark contrast to the hardened warrior she'd first met. One evening, as the sun set over the horizon, Emma sat beside Cale, holding a sketch pad. "I want to draw you," she said impulsively. "If that's okay?" Cale raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. "Why?" "Because you're fascinating," she replied with a grin, "and because I think it might help people see you differently if they're willing to look." Cale considered this for a moment before nodding. "Very well," as Emma sketched. She noticed the subtle changes in his demeanor, relaxed slightly, his shoulders losing some of their rigidity. When she finished, she showed him the drawing. It wasn't perfect, but it captured the essence of who he was: the strength, the sorrow, the beauty. "This is me?" Cale asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. "Yes," Emma said softly. "This is how I see you." Cale studied the drawing for a long time before handing it back to her. "Thank you," he murmured. "No one has ever seen me this way before." Smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. Maybe it's time they did. But even as she said the words, she couldn't ignore the unease lingering at the edges of her mind. The colony was still divided, and Christopher's hostility showed no signs of fading. Whatever future lay ahead for her and Cale, it wouldn't come without challenges. Still, for the first time in a long while, Emma felt hopeful. If she could change even one person's perspective, maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for peace after all. Each conversation with Cale brought new insights, not just about his world, but also about herself. She found herself looking forward to their talks, eager to learn more about the alien warrior who seemed so different from the monsters people feared. Cale, in turn, began to soften around her, his guarded demeanor giving way to moments of quiet vulnerability. One afternoon, as Emma tended to a fresh bandage on his side, she asked a question that had been lingering in her mind. "Cale, why did you attack the colony? If you're not like the others, then why were you fighting us?" Cale hesitated, his glowing eyes flickering with uncertainty. For a moment, Emma thought he wouldn't answer. Then slowly, he spoke. "Was not attacking. Your colony I was running." "From my own kind?" Emma froze, her hands stilling on the bandage. "Running? Why?" Cale leaned back slightly, his expression pained. "There are those among the Vorin who hunt outcasts like me. They see us as weak, unworthy. When they find us, they take us back to our homeworld to be used as tools, weapons for their wars. I refused to return, so I ran." Emma felt a chill run down her spine. The thought of being hunted by one's own people was horrifying. "And when you came here," she pressed gently. "I thought I could hide," Cale admitted. "But your soldiers, they saw me. They attacked first. I fought only to defend myself." Emma nodded slowly, piecing together the truth. Cale wasn't the aggressor. He was a victim, just like the colonists who lived in fear of alien raids. Yet no one else would see it that way. To them, he was still a threat, a dangerous outsider who didn't belong. "You should tell Daniel." "This," Emma said finally. "If he knew the truth, maybe he'd know," Cale interrupted sharply. "Your leader will not listen. He sees only what he wants to see, like the others." Emma sighed, knowing he was right. Daniel was a good man, but he was also cautious, driven by the need to protect the colony at all costs. Convincing him to see Cale as anything other than a potential danger would be nearly impossible. Later that evening, Emma returned to the infirmary after finishing her rounds. As she entered, she noticed Cale sitting by the window, staring out at the stars. His chains rattled softly as he shifted, and for a moment she wondered what it must feel like to be trapped like that both physically and emotionally. "Cale," she called softly, stepping closer. "Are you okay?" He turned to look at her, his glowing eyes reflecting the dim light. "I am tired, Emma. Tired of running, of hiding, of being alone." Emma's heart ached at his words. She wanted to comfort him, to tell him he wasn't alone anymore, but she knew it wasn't that simple. "You don't have to be alone," she said instead. "Not while I'm here." Cale studied her for a long moment, as if searching for sincerity. In her gaze, finally he nodded. "Thank you." The silence between them stretched, filled only by the distant hum of the colony's generators. Emma sat beside him, her mind racing with thoughts of what to do next. No, she couldn't keep him locked up forever, not when he posed no real threat. But letting him go meant risking the colony's safety and her own. "Teach me your language," Cale said suddenly, breaking the silence. Emma blinked, surprised by the request. "My language? Yes. Your words? They are beautiful. Like you." Emma felt her cheeks flush, though she wasn't sure why. "Okay," she said with a small smile. "Where do we start?" They spent the next hour practicing simple phrases, Cale repeating each word carefully after her. His accent was strange but melodic, turning even the most ordinary sentences into something poetic. In return, Cale taught her fragments of his own language, a series of flowing syllables that sounded like music to Emma's ears as they worked. Emma realized how much Cale craved connection. Despite his strength and resilience, he was lonely, yearning for something or someone to fill the void left by his exile. And though she hadn't planned it, she found herself filling that role, becoming a bridge between his world and hers. The following morning, tension in the colony reached a boiling point. Christopher Blake stormed into the command center demanding action against Kale. "We can't keep him here any longer," he shouted, slamming his fist on the table. "Every second he stays is a risk to everyone." Daniel Hayes rubbed his temples, clearly exhausted. "And what do you propose we do, Chris?" "Execute him without proof of wrongdoing." "Yes," Christopher snapped. "That's exactly what we should do. He's an alien, Daniel. A monster. You know it. I know it. Everyone knows it." Emma, who had been listening quietly from the corner, stepped forward. "Kale hasn't done anything wrong," she said firmly. "He's been cooperative, calm, and respectful. Executing him would make us no better than the raiders we're trying to fight." Christopher glared at her. "You're blinded by pity, Emma. This thing doesn't deserve your sympathy." "It's not pity," Emma shot back, her voice rising. "It's compassion, something you clearly lack." The room fell silent, the weight of her words hanging heavy in the air. Daniel cleared his throat, breaking the tension. "Enough. We're not executing anyone without cause. But we also can't ignore the risks. Emma, I need you to keep a close eye on him. Report anything unusual immediately." Emma nodded, though her stomach churned with unease. She knew Christopher wouldn't let this go, and his hostility only made her more determined to protect Kale. That night, Emma visited Kale again, bringing him a book she'd borrowed from the colony's small library. "I thought you might like this," she said, handing it to him. "It's a story about courage and friendship. I think you'll enjoy it." Kale accepted the book cautiously, flipping through its pages. "These symbols, they mean something." "There." "Letters," Emma explained. "Words written down. If you want, I can teach you how to read them." Kale's eyes lit up with interest. "Yes, teach me." For the next hour, Emma guided him through the basics of reading, patiently helping him sound out each letter. Kale absorbed everything quickly, his sharp mind picking up patterns and rules with ease. By the end of the session, he could read a few short sentences, his pride evident in the way he held himself. "You're a fast learner," Emma said with a smile. Kale looked at her, his expression softening. "You are a good teacher, Emma." "Thank you." Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest, but it was tinged with sadness. She knew their time together was limited, that sooner or later the colony's leaders would force her to choose between Kale and her duty. The thought terrified her, but she pushed it aside, focusing instead on the present moment. As they sat together, Emma realized something important. Kale wasn't just changing her perspective, he was changing her. Before meeting him, she'd been content to follow orders, to stay within the boundaries set by others. But now she found herself questioning those boundaries, daring to imagine a future where humans and aliens could coexist peacefully. And deep down, she knew that whatever happened next, she wouldn't give up on him, not without a fight. Cooled. If anything, it had grown sharper. He paced the command center, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. "We're sitting ducks," he growled during another heated meeting. "Every second we keep that alien alive is a second closer to disaster." Daniel Hayes tried to reason with him, but even Daniel's patience was wearing thin. "Chris, I understand your concerns, but we can't act rashly. We need proof before we make any decisions." "Proof?" Christopher spat. "What more proof do you need? He's an alien, Daniel. He doesn't belong here. And Emma," he turned his glare toward her, "is too blinded by pity to see the danger." Emma clenched her fists under the table, fighting to keep her composure. "It's not pity," she said firmly. "It's trust. Kale hasn't done anything to harm us. If anything, he's shown us that not all aliens are monsters." Christopher scoffed. "Trust? You want to trust something that could rip us apart in seconds? That's insane."
Oh.
"That's enough," Daniel snapped, slamming his hand on the table. The room fell silent. "We're done arguing about this. For now, Kale stays where he is. Emma, continue monitoring him. Chris, focus on securing the perimeter. Understood?" Christopher stormed out without another word, leaving behind a trail of frustration. Emma let out a shaky breath, grateful for Daniel's intervention, but she knew it was only a temporary reprieve. Christopher wouldn't stop pushing until Cale was gone or worse. That evening, Emma returned to the infirmary. With a heavy heart, she found Cale sitting quietly by the window, his glowing eyes fixed on the stars outside. Turned as she entered, his expression unreadable. "He looked troubled," he said softly. Emma forced a smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. "Nothing. Just people are scared. They don't understand you." Cale nodded slowly. "They fear what they do not know. It is natural. I wish they could see you the way I do," Emma admitted, sitting beside him. "If they could just talk to you, spend time with you, maybe they'd realize you're not a threat." Cale studied her for a moment, his gaze piercing yet gentle. "You risk much for me, Emma. Why?" Emma hesitated, unsure how to answer. "Because it's the right thing to do," she said finally. "And because I believe in you." Cale looked away, his jaw tightening. You should not. "Believing in me will only bring you pain." Emma shook her head. "Maybe, but I'd rather face pain than regret. Regret for not standing up for what I believe in." Cale didn't respond immediately. Instead, he leaned back, his chains rattling. Softly, the sound seemed to echo in the silence between them, a reminder of his captivity. Emma's chest tightened at the sight. Keeping him chained up felt wrong, cruel even. Yet she knew releasing him would only escalate the situation. There has to be another way, she murmured, more to herself than to him. Cale glanced at her sharply. "Another way?" Emma nodded, determination flickering in her eyes. "A way to prove to everyone that you're not dangerous. Maybe if you helped us show them you're willing to work with us, they'd see you differently." Cale frowned, his brow furrowing. "Help you how?" "I don't know yet," Emma admitted, "but there has to be something. Something that shows them you're on our side." Cale considered this for a long moment before speaking. "If I help you, will they let me go?" Emma hesitated. The question hung in the air, heavy and unavoidable. I don't know. But I'll do everything I can to make sure they do." Cale's lips pressed into a thin line, and for a moment Emma thought he would refuse. Then slowly, he nodded. "Very well. What must I do?" The opportunity came sooner than expected. Early the next morning, alarms blared across the colony, jolting everyone awake. A group of scavengers had been spotted near the outer perimeter, their movements suggesting an imminent attack. Soldiers scrambled to prepare defenses. While civilians were ushered into shelters, Emma rushed to the infirmary, her mind racing. She found Cale standing by the window, his chains clinking as he shifted uneasily. "What's happening?" he asked, his voice low and urgent. "They're here," Emma replied, her heart pounding. "The scavengers. They're attacking." Cale's glowing eyes narrowed. "Let me help." Emma hesitated, torn between fear and desperation. "If anyone sees you, they will see me fight for you," Cale interrupted. "Not against you." Emma took a deep breath, knowing she was making a reckless decision. But she also knew they needed every advantage they could get. "Okay," she said finally. "But stay close to me." With trembling hands, she unlocked, his chains freeing him for the first time since his capture. Cale flexed his wrists, testing the newfound mobility before nodding at her. "Lead the way." The battlefield was chaos. Blaster shots lit up the night sky and shouts echoed through the air as soldiers clashed with the scavengers. Emma stayed close to Cale, her pulse racing as they moved through the fray. At first the colonists stared in disbelief, unsure whether to trust him or treat him as an enemy. But when Cale stepped in front of a group of civilians, shielding them from a barrage of fire, their hesitation turned to awe. "He's helping us," someone shouted, and soon others joined in, rallying around Cale as he fought alongside them. Cale moved with precision and grace, strength unmatched by the scavengers' crude weapons. He didn't kill unnecessarily, instead disarming and disabling his opponents with calculated efficiency. Emma watched in amazement, realizing just how much control he exerted over his power. By the time the skirmish ended, Scavengers had retreated, leaving behind a trail of destruction. The colonists gathered in stunned silence, their eyes fixed on Kale. For the first time, they saw not a monster, but a protector. Later that night, Emma sat with Kale in the quiet aftermath of the battle. His injuries had reopened slightly during the fight, and she tended to them carefully. Her hands steady, despite the exhaustion weighing her down. "You saved us," she said softly. "They won't forget that." Kale met her gaze, his expression somber. "Will they let me go now?" Emma hesitated, her throat tight with uncertainty. "I don't know, but I'll fight for you, Kale, whatever it takes." Kale reached out, his fingers brushing hers lightly.
"Thank you, Emma,
for believing in me." Emma smiled, though tears pricked at the corners of her eyes. She didn't know what the future held, but for now, they had taken one step forward, a fragile hope. Amid the chaos, mark on everyone who had witnessed them. Soldiers recounted how he had shielded civilians, his towering figure cutting through the chaos like a beacon of strength. Mothers spoke of how their children had been saved by his quick reflexes. While others marveled at his restraint, he hadn't killed unnecessarily, even when faced with hostility. Yet, despite the newfound respect, fear still lingered in the air. The colonists were divided. Some saw Kale as a hero, proof that not all aliens were monsters. Others remained wary, convinced that his help had been nothing more than a calculated move to gain their trust. Christopher Blake led this latter group, his hatred for Kale burning brighter than ever. "He's dangerous," Christopher argued during another heated meeting in the command center. "Just because he helped us once doesn't mean we can trust him. He's biding his time, waiting for the right moment to strike." Daniel Hayes rubbed his temples, clearly frustrated. "Chris, you're letting your anger cloud your judgment. Kale proved himself yesterday. Without him, we might have lost a lot more people." "Exactly," Christopher snapped. "He's too powerful? What happens if he turns on us? We'll be defenseless." Emma stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. "Kale isn't our enemy. He fought beside us, protected us. Isn't that worth something?" Christopher turned his glare on her. "You're too close to this, Emma. You're forgetting what he is, an alien, a warrior." "Do you really think he cares about us?" "Yes," Emma said firmly. "I do, because I've seen it. I've talked to him. He's not like the scavengers or the raiders. He's different," Christopher scoffed. "Different doesn't mean safe." Before Emma could respond, Daniel raised a hand, silencing both of them. "Enough. Arguing won't solve anything. Here's what we'll do. Kale stays under observation. If he continues to cooperate, we'll consider granting him freedom. But until then, he remains secured." Emma felt a flicker of relief. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was better than outright hostility. Still, she knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Christopher wouldn't give up so easily, and neither would those who shared his views. Later that day, Emma visited Kale in the infirmary. He was sitting quietly by the window, his glowing eyes reflecting the sunlight streaming through the glass. His injuries had been treated, but the weight of the past few days was evident in his posture, shoulders slightly slumped, expression distant. "How are you feeling?" Emma asked gently, pulling up a chair beside him. Kale glanced at her, his gaze softening, tired, but grateful. Emma smiled faintly. "You deserve to feel proud. You saved so many lives yesterday." Kale shook his head. "I only did what was necessary. Your people needed help. I gave it." "That's exactly why they should let you go," Emma said, her voice tinged with frustration. "You've shown them you're not a threat." "Can't they see that?" Kale's lips pressed into a thin line. "Because fear is stronger than reason. They will always see me as an outsider, Emma, no matter what I do." Emma reached out, placing a hand on his arm. "Not everyone thinks that way. Some of them are starting to see you differently. It's a start." Kale looked at her hand on his arm, then back at her face. There was something in his eyes, a flicker of hope, perhaps. "You believe in me," he said softly. "Why?" Emma hesitated, searching for the right words. "Because you remind me of what humanity should strive for. strength without cruelty, courage without arrogance, compassion without hesitation. Those are qualities worth believing in. Cale didn't respond immediately. Instead, he turned his gaze back to the window, watching the horizon stretch endlessly before them. For a long moment, neither of them spoke, silence between them heavy with unspoken thoughts. Finally, Cale broke the quiet. "What happens now?" Emma sighed, leaning back in her chair. "Now, we wait, and hope that people come around. But I promise you, Kalai won't stop fighting for you, whatever it takes." Cale nodded slowly, though his expression remained guarded. "Thank you, Emma, for everything." As the days passed, tensions in the colony began to ease. The initial shock of Cale's heroics faded, replaced by cautious curiosity. Some colonists approached Emma, asking questions about him. Was he really as peaceful as he seemed? Did he have family somewhere? Could he truly be trusted? Emma answered as honestly as she could, sharing bits of what she had learned about Cale's life, the loneliness, the resilience. She painted a picture of a being who was more human than alien, someone who had suffered greatly but still chose kindness over vengeance. Her efforts weren't wasted. Slowly, attitudes began to shift. Children waved shyly at Cale when they passed the infirmary, their parents trailing behind with hesitant smiles. Soldiers nodded respectfully, acknowledging his role in defending the colony. Even Daniel seemed more open to the idea of releasing him, though Christopher's influence kept him cautious. But Christopher wasn't ready to concede defeat, continued to push for Cale's imprisonment or worse. One evening, Emma overheard him speaking to a group of soldiers outside the barracks. "We can't keep treating him like some kind of guest," Christopher growled. "He's a liability. Sooner or later, he'll turn on us. And when he does, it'll be too late." Emma clenched her fists, anger bubbling inside her. She wanted to confront him, to tell him how wrong he was, but she knew it wouldn't change his mind. Instead, she resolved to strengthen her case for Cale's release. That night, she stayed late in the infirmary, working on a proposal to present to Daniel. She outlined Cale's contributions to the colony, emphasized his cooperation, and highlighted the potential benefits of fostering goodwill between humans and aliens. By the time she finished, dawn was breaking over the horizon. When she presented the proposal to Daniel the next morning, he listened carefully, his expression thoughtful. "You make a strong case, Emma," he said finally, "but convincing. The rest of the colony won't be easy. People are scared," "I know," Emma replied. "But fear shouldn't dictate our choices. If we want to survive out here, we need to learn to trust. Not just each other, but others too." Daniel nodded slowly. "All right, let's call a meeting. Everyone gets a say. If the majority agrees to release Cale, then we'll do it." Emma felt a surge of hope. It wasn't a guarantee, but it was a real chance for Cale too. Walk free. The meeting took place that evening, held in the colony's central square. Colonists gathered nervously, their faces reflecting a mix of fear and curiosity. Emma stood beside Cale, her presence a silent show of support. When Daniel called for order, the crowd fell silent. "This is Cale," Daniel began, gesturing toward the alien warrior. "He saved us during the attack, has proven himself to be trustworthy. Now we need to decide whether to grant him his freedom." Voices erupted immediately, opinions clashing like waves against rocks. Some shouted in favor of releasing him, citing his bravery and compassion. Others demanded he remain locked up, fearing retaliation or betrayal. The debate raged on, emotions running high. Finally, Christopher stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. "If we let him go, we're putting everyone at risk. He's too dangerous to roam free." Emma stepped forward, her heart pounding. "Cale isn't dangerous. He's one of the bravest beings I've ever met. Yes, he's strong. Yes, he's different, but that doesn't make him a threat. It makes him an ally." The crowd murmured, uncertainty rippling through them. Then, one by one, hands began to rise in favor of Cale's release. The tide was turning. When the final vote was cast, the decision was clear. Cale would be set free. Cheers erupted from those who supported him, while others grumbled in dissent. Christopher stormed off, his face red with rage, but Emma barely noticed. Her focus was on Kale, whose glowing eyes shimmered with gratitude. "You're free," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. Kale looked at her, his expression unreadable yet deeply moving. "Thank you, Emma, for believing in me." The first time, Emma allowed herself to believe not just in Kale, but in the possibility of a future where differences didn't divide, but united. But it wasn't without its challenges. Some colonists celebrated the decision, seeing it as a step toward peace and understanding. Others remained skeptical, keeping their distance and casting wary glances at the alien warrior. Christopher Blake was among them, his anger simmering just beneath the surface. He avoided Emma altogether, refusing to acknowledge her efforts, or even look in her direction. Emma, however, didn't have time to dwell on Christopher's hostility. Her focus was on Kale. Now that he was free, she knew he needed guidance, not just to navigate the colony, but also to prepare for whatever lay ahead. She spent the day showing him around, introducing him to those who were curious enough to approach. At first, people were hesitant, their fear evident in the way they kept their distance. But Kale's calm demeanor and gentle gestures slowly put them at ease. "He doesn't seem so scary," a young boy whispered to his mother as Kale knelt down to let him touch the shimmering fabric of his armor. Kale smiled faintly, his glowing eyes softening. "I am not here to harm you," he said quietly, "only to help." By the end of the day, a small group of colonists had gathered around him, asking questions about his world and sharing stories of their own. Emma watched from a short distance, her heart swelling with pride. It wasn't perfect, there were still whispers of doubt, but it was progress. And for now, that was enough. That evening, Emma and Kale sat together outside the infirmary, watching the stars twinkle above the horizon. The air was cool, carrying the scent of damp earth and distant fires. They had grown comfortable in each other's company, their conversations flowing easily, despite their differences. "What will you do now?" Emma asked, breaking the quiet. "Where will you go?" Kale hesitated, his gaze fixed on the sky. "I do not know. My people, they will come for me eventually. I cannot stay here forever." Emma felt a pang of sadness at his words. She hadn't allowed herself to think about what would happen after Kale left. The thought of saying goodbye to him, to the connection they had built, was almost unbearable. "You could stay longer," she suggested softly, "at least until things settle down. Till you're ready." Kale turned to look at her, his expression unreadable. "And what of you, Emma? Would you stay with me?" Emma blinked, caught off guard by the question. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Kale paused, choosing his words carefully, "you have shown me kindness, trust, compassion, things I have not known in many years. If I leave, will you come with me?" Emma's breath hitched. She hadn't expected this. Leaving the colony her home, her life wasn't something she had considered. Yet as she looked into Kale's glowing eyes, she realized how much he meant to her, how much he had changed. Her. I don't know," she admitted finally. "It's a big decision, to be leaving everything behind." Kale nodded, understanding. "I would not ask you to give up your life for me, but if you wish to see more of the stars, if you wish to stand beside me, you are welcome." Emma smiled faintly, though her mind raced with conflicting thoughts. She wanted to say yes, to follow him into the unknown. But fear held her back, the fear of leaving behind the only world she had ever known. The days that followed were bittersweet. Kale continued to integrate into the colony, earning the trust of more people with each passing day. He helped repair damaged structures, shared knowledge about survival in harsh environments, and even taught children simple phrases in his language. His presence became a symbol of hope, a reminder that differences could be bridged with patience and understanding. But the shadow of his eventual departure loomed over Emma. She tried to push it aside, focusing instead on making the most of their remaining time together. They spent hours talking under the stars, sharing dreams and fears. Kale told her about the beauty of his homeworld, the vast deserts, The towering cities, the endless skies filled with constellations she couldn't imagine. In return, Emma described Earth, painting vivid pictures of oceans, forests, and bustling cities. "It sounds peaceful," Cale said one night, his voice tinged with longing. "Your world, your people, they are beautiful," Emma chuckled. "Softly, not always. We fight, we argue, we make mistakes. But we also try. It's what makes us human." Cale studied her for a long moment, his glowing eyes reflecting the moonlight. "You are stronger than you realize, Emma. Stronger than anyone I have ever met." Emma felt her cheeks flush, though she smiled warmly. "And you're braver than anyone I've ever known?" One morning, Cale came to Emma with news. "They are coming," he said simply, his tone heavy with resignation. Emma's heart sank. "Who? Your people?" Cale nodded. "I can feel it. They're close. Too close." Fear gripped Emma, squeezing her chest tight. "What will you do?" "I must leave," Cale replied firmly. "If they find me here, they will destroy your colony. I cannot let that happen." Emma shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "No, you can't go alone. Let me come with you." Cale reached out, his hand brushing hers lightly. "Emma, I cannot ask you to risk your life for me. This is my burden to bear." "But it doesn't have to be," Emma insisted, her voice trembling. "You've already done so much for me. Let me do this for you." Cale hesitated, his jaw tightening. For a moment, Emma thought he would refuse. Then, slowly, he nodded. "If that is your choice, I will not stop you." Relief flooded through Emma, though it was mixed with apprehension. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she also knew she couldn't let Cale face it alone. The farewell was emotional. The colonists gathered to see Cale off, their expressions a mix of gratitude and sorrow. Some thanked him for his help, while others offered words of encouragement. Even Daniel Hayes stepped forward, shaking Cale's hand firmly. "Take care of yourself," Daniel said gruffly, "and take care of Emma." Cale nodded solemnly. "I will protect her with my life." As Emma prepared to leave, a few colonists approached her, offering hugs and well wishes. "You don't have to do this," one woman said softly. "You have a life here." Emma smiled, though her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I know, but sometimes you have to follow your heart, and mine is telling me to go." With that, she joined Cale at the edge of the colony, where a makeshift transport awaited them. Hand in hand, they stepped onto the vehicle, leaving behind the only world Emma had ever known. The journey was long and arduous, filled with moments of wonder and danger. Together, Emma and Cale faced challenges neither could have anticipated, relying on each other's strength to persevere. Along the way, they discovered new worlds, forged unexpected alliances, and uncovered truths about themselves and each other. Through it all, Emma never regretted her decision. Though she missed the colony and the people she had left behind, she knew she had made the right choice. Cale had shown her a universe far greater than she had ever imagined on in doing so. He had shown her the depths of her own courage. One evening, as they stood beneath a sky ablaze with unfamiliar stars, Cale turned to her. "Why did you choose to come with me, Emma?" Emma smiled, her heart full. "Because you showed me what true strength looks like. Not in battle, but in choosing compassion over hate. And because I believe in you." Cale's glowing eyes softened, and for the first time, Emma saw something in them she hadn't seen. "Before love, thank you," he murmured, "for believing in me." As they walked hand in hand into the unknown, Emma realized that their journey was just beginning. Together, they would face whatever came next, not as human, an alien, but as equals. And in that, she found a peace she had never known before.